So I'm starting another big project that is going to take me a while to do, so apologies for any long gaps between videos. I'm definitely working on things, but this is actually a requested video. Someone suggested doing how you plan your cosplay video stuff. I have talked about that before in my how to cosplay video, but let's go in more detail to that today because I know it's something people struggle with, literally just sort of the first hurdle of how you actually start making stuff if you're gonna make it from scratch. So I present to you the current cosplay idea that I really want to do. This is Green Goblin from Spider-Man Turn Off the Dark. So this is something that's been in my head for about a year now, and during lockdown I actually went and did all the planning and all the budgeting for it to try and figure out how I could actually make it. So I'm gonna start properly making it just as soon as I get my current projects done and out the way. So hopefully this will help you if you're just kind of getting into cosplay and want to figure out how on earth do I do this. But remember, you don't have to make your cosplay from scratch to be considered a cosplay. You can buy your stuff off the hook, wear it straight away, buy stuff and modify it, commission it, whatever you want. Cosplay is supposed to be fun. Do what you want to do, but if you want to make stuff from scratch and this helps, then I am glad it can help. Can you tell I've not scripted this video? So step one, or at least step one for me, is falling in love with a certain character. Some people cosplay characters purely because they like the look of the costume. They don't have to specifically like the character or know that much about it, and they just still go ahead and make the costume. So my love for this version of the Green Goblin started pretty recently. For those who have been following me for a while know that I have attempted to do a Green Goblin costume in the past, specifically the Sam Raimi version of the Goblin. This is the only part of the costume I completed across a 4-year span. The rest of it ended up in the bin. Also, I made this little con-safe foam pumpkin bomb, so you can lob it at people and it won't hurt. That sounds like that actually kind of would have hurt. Don't throw your props at people. You will get kicked out. But yeah, at that time I bit off a bit more than I could chew in terms of making the bodysuit. So I'm back at it again with another Green Goblin because apparently I didn't hurt myself enough last time. It all started back when I was making the Mysterio costume last year. I was working on the gauntlets. That's a very tedious part of the costume to do, so I thought, I'll do it up in my room. I can have some movies, some music on in the background, you know, just kind of motivate me to actually do some work. And the bootleg of the Broadway show has been in my watch list for years. It's Spider-Man, it'll motivate me to do my Spider-Man villain, and then I ended up not doing as much work as I thought I would because I ended up watching the show back to back twice. And of course I have a soft spot for funny, evil, charismatic, wacky villains. Oh no, I have feelings this is gonna turn into a project, isn't it? I did a body paint of it last year and that kind of cemented the fact to me that I really wanted to do it because I liked how it looked even just with body paint. So when I was in lockdown I actually sat down and researched and looked at it and decided exactly how I was gonna build this costume. So, second thing when it comes to making your costume is get all the reference material you possibly can. For me, I normally just have a folder full of photos of every single angle of the costume I can find. I will tell you now, getting back shots of costumes is normally the worst thing. There's never normally any decent pictures of the back of a suit, so you will spend a lot of your time just trying to find a picture of someone's butt. Sounds weird, but that's what happens. This one is currently my favourite reference image because it's just so random. The facial expression and the fact that the Green Goblin is giving away a washing machine? So it's like getting promotional pictures, screenshots from the TV show or film or whatever you're getting it from. For me, the bootleg wasn't an option to get any screenshots from because it is terrible quality, but they did a couple of promo things on like late night TV and some of those are on YouTube, and that was the only place I managed to get a shot of the back of the costume. There is also behind the scenes video where I could see how the Goblin makeup was kind of done. Always looking at behind the scenes of DVDs as well. That's always helpful because normally they do show you how they put costumes together. Not in a huge amount of detail always, but sometimes it's just enough that you can see, oh, I know how I could possibly do that my own way. So once you've got all your photos and any videos you want, it's then a case of just sitting down and staring at them for several hours. That's kind of how I do it anyway. So basically, I have my little sketch pad and I look at all the photos. When it comes to this costume, I am going to be simplifying a bits of the make. That's something people shouldn't be scared to do either. If you look at a costume and think, oh, I could do that, but I can't do that exactly, or I don't quite like this detail of the suit, I could do it differently, then do it. Some people will strive to be 100% accurate. Personally, not me. I strive to be, it looks good, you can tell who it is, but sometimes if you have to make changes or simplify things to get them to work for you, that is absolutely fine. So basically, looking at different components of the costumes and just figuring out how they all go together, kind of. With this one, there's a lot of layers. It was the same with the other goblin. The armour and stuff is all built up in layers and you got to figure out which bits go where. Good example is there's these bits on the side of like goblin's hips that come round from the front all around the back. And it's kind of hard to see kind of how they meet in the middle just from the images I had. So I had to look at certain images and just sketch out how they would actually look sort of underneath his arm, where it is in most of the pictures you can't actually see. If you don't have any behind the scenes that tell you like what it's made out of, you kind of got to look at it and try and guess really. If you look at something and you can't figure it out, maybe just post an image online, get some friends or other people to say, hey, I'm looking at this but I can't figure out what it's made out of or how to do it. There are so many friendly cosplayers out there, they will come and help you. Also, you can always send stuff to me on my DMs on Instagram. If I see it, I always try to help. But there may be an issue that you come across, which it wasn't an issue for me, but just something I noticed. Sometimes when it comes to costumes, either in shows, film, stage, the costume does change over time, whether that be continuity errors, which can happen a lot in films, or they just decide to tweak it a little bit between shows, or whatever the reason. If you look close enough, you will find some either little or major differences. I had that with my Hades cosplay I did the version that's on Broadway, but the show has changed a lot over the years. The London show and the Broadway show are pretty similar, but there was some small changes to the Hades costume that I had to bear in mind and make sure that I did what was in the current Broadway version, not in the older one. And with the Goblin it's kind of the same, because whilst researching it I found out there's actually 4 different versions of this costume. So you've got this one, which I'm just going to call the main version. This is one you're going to see when you're watching the bootleg or any sort of real promotional material from the show. This is the stuff that they decided on. This is the one that both actors wore. You've got this version, which is the stunt version using for the flying/fight scenes. As you can see, it's pretty much the same, but there are some small details missing. The mask itself is actually a pullover mask, not the separate pieces of prosthetic. And just on the little side panels here, you can see the kind of little sort of spiky details are missing. It's just one flat painted piece of costume. Then you've got this, which I think is a very early sort of suit for the show that they either had in just the early rehearsal runs. I don't think this actually made it onto the sort of official open runs, I'm not sure, but you can see this in early promotional material. Basically the main costume's the same, but the mask and the hair is different. And then you've got this one, which is the very first, as far as I know, version of the Goblin that they did. He's very yellow. This looks like the man has just stepped out of the 90s, which being a 90s baby, I can appreciate. This version does appear in the show. From what I can tell, this is the version that they used to do a lot of pre-recorded footage that appears on screens on the stage during certain parts of the show. They do a bit of colour correcting on the screen, so it's not as like vibrant yellow as this costume here, but you can tell it's this one. You can see you've got the red lenses on, you can see the slight difference in the facial sculpt, and also the big giveaway is the difference with the hair. So that's just an example of what you could be looking at when you look at costumes. Things do change over time, so always look out to see if there's any sort of missing details. But again, if you're not going 100% accurate, you can always just mix and match and go, oh, I like the hair off that one, but I prefer the bodysuit on that one. Mash them together. People still gonna know what the character is if they know the character. Just have fun with it. So I'm just going for the normal version, just the bog standard. I say bog standard, this is gonna be so hard to put together, but I'm enjoying it. Well, I'm looking forward to doing it. I haven't started it yet. It's gonna take me a while. And this costume is going to involve a lot of things I have not done before. Looking at this costume, obviously the main one is the prosthetic. I haven't attempted prosthetics before. I've sculpted and casted stuff, but I've never done it out of latex. Also, a friend has offered to help me do a live cast of my face so I can sculpt stuff to properly fit to my face. So that'll be an interesting experience. There's going to be a custom wig. Looking at the reference photos, I can see that certain parts are actually cast out of silicone. Again, I've cast things out of resin, but not tried to cast and colour actual proper silicone before. There's going to be a lot of airbrushing on this. You can see there's parts on the shoulders that might have to be vacuum formed or just cut out and handmade, maybe out of Warbler. It's going to be something that later on down the line I'm going to figure out definitely what works best. Again, it's looking at the stuff and figuring out, right, can I do it the same way they've done it? Maybe you will need to simplify it and make it out of something completely different. But I would always champion try and do something new. Like, I'm gonna do the silicone casting, I'm gonna figure out how to make my own prosthetics, I'm gonna try to make a wig, because I really want to improve my skills. And maybe one day a props company will hire me. Wink, 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 wink. I live in England, south of England, so if there's anyone around there that maybe has like a space one day, hit me up. So then just do your research on what materials you're gonna use and then budget yourself. A lot of people do look at cosplay and think, oh, it's such an expensive endeavour. And honestly, yes it is. I'm into Star Wars cosplay. A lot of the characters I do are armoured characters. That definitely comes with a hefty price tag, even if you make it yourself. But the thing with scratch building a costume is you're going to be doing every single bit by yourself, so you're going to be buying in bits as and when you need it. Don't buy everything at once. Figure out what bits you're going to work on first and then buy it as you need it. So for me, the first thing I'm going to start working on for the Goblin is the bodysuit. So the first thing that I'm going to buy is the bodysuit and any extra bits that I'm going to need to build up that base layer before moving on to the extra detailing. So don't be afraid to spend a few days just looking up tutorials, making notes, figuring out where's the best place to buy your stuff from, because again, a lot of people ask me, where did you get this specific thing from? And sometimes, like, I get a lot of stuff from eBay, a lot of stuff from UK sellers, so that might not be perfect for you, because obviously being in the UK, it's cheaper for me to get from UK sellers. If you're in another country and you're looking for the same thing, there probably is somebody else that will do it over there, so you don't have to pay an extortionate amount of shipping. So it's a case of sit down, research. I googled all the materials I wanted, wrote down where to get them from, wrote down the price. So once you do come to making it, you've got everything written down and you can just go, right now I need this, this and this, and then you can just buy those bits. And then when it comes, you can just slowly work on it and build up. And I think it's not so scary when you just have sort of little bits you can work on at a time. One of the other things you can do, which I have done, is prototype stuff. So for the Goblin, I have already pre-done some bits out of foam, some bits which are just gonna be foam on the costume, some bits which are gonna be cast and turned into the silicone molds. So I had some scrap foam lying around, and I knew that had helped me sort of get a leg up and I didn't have to work on all the small tedious bits when actually doing the proper costume. So if you're looking at something and you're not entirely sure how it goes together, even if you've got just like cardboard, scraps of foam just hanging around, just make a version of that piece of the costume. It doesn't have to be out of what you're gonna finally make it out of, but it can give you an idea of how to actually put it together. You can template bits out of paper. Just play around with it until you get comfortable before moving on to your main material. That way you're not wasting a lot of the stuff that you're actually spending money on. And it's also totally valid if you want to build an entire cosplay out of cardboard. You can do that. And then for me, to stay motivated, I normally find myself in a mood. So when it comes to my costumes, I'm either in a Spider-Man or a Star Wars mood. That seems to be what I go between a lot right now. I'm kind of in the middle currently, because I've been working on both Star Wars costumes and prototyping a Spider-Man costume at the same time. But some people have asked, how do you stay motivated? For me, especially with this costume, it helps. It's a Broadway show. I've got the album. I can listen to the album. You can put on the film in the background. You can sort of learn more about the character if you want by watching things about them. Keep watching the films. Again, when it comes to cosplay, it is a bit of a performance. It's easy to do it when you're behind a mask, because obviously your facial features and your voice don't have to match up to exactly what's on the screen. But you kind of want to get the mannerisms down when you're in costume. So it's just kind of looking at how a character stands, how they present themselves, how they walk, how they talk. Again, this voice does not match up to the Goblin's voice whatsoever. So I'm going to try to work on my own version of the voice, which I'm not going to debut here because it's currently terrible. Again, if it's something you've newly discovered, try and get a feel for the character. And even if it makes you look like a complete idiot reciting lines and stuff in your room, that's absolutely fine. When I did the body paint of the Goblin, at the end of the video, I did a whole lip sync thing from a scene from the show. It took me quite a few nights to actually learn all the dialogue and the timing. It's been a long time since I've actually done proper acting. But at the end of the day, if you're having fun, you're doing it right. But it also can be frustrating and a big test of your patience. Things aren't always going to work out, but that's okay. If you do get frustrated with the costume not working, take a step back, take a break, come back to it later. And if you do get really stuck, there are always forums out there normally dedicated to a specific costume type. Or if there's not, just put a shout out online. There are lots of lovely people who will come and help you. So that's it. That's my how to prep for a new cosplay video, or how I've done it. I hope this is useful to you. If it is, let me know. Put a comment down below. I do read them. Now you know what's coming. Do stick around for the builds. As I said, there's going to be lots of new stuff that we're actually going to try, so hopefully that'll be pretty exciting. And this costume is also going to be funded by the lovely people on Patreon. So if you want to join the Patreon, get behind the scenes look at all the builds I do, get early access to my videos, the links are always at the end of my video and in the description down below. Of course, you don't have to do that. If you like what you see, please do subscribe. Please watch my other videos. If you know anybody else that might like them, share it with them too. If you know anybody else that's hiring, share it with them also. So thank you to the lovely people on Patreon who do support this channel so I can keep making and bringing stuff to you. Big thanks has got to go out to Jeff Kenny, who has pledged to have his name shouted out on my videos. Also, now is the perfect time of year to go shopping for goblin accessories. Halloween is on its way. I got these last year. I'm going to turn them into little pumpkin bombs. So thank you very much for watching. I'll see you in the next video. Take care. I normally say may the force be with you. For this one, I'm going to say take care, true believers, and get ready to be mean and green. See you next time.